I'm making a video. Yesterday evening I had a couple of hours of primal screaming, and that's why my voice is kind of scratchy, but that's okay. It's cold here. I have no idea why it is so cold. Last week it was really hot, like in the 80s, and now it's somewhere around 60. It always switches here between ice cold winds and inland winds and polar winds, and it shifts all the time, and you can't even keep up with your wardrobe with that. It's absolutely hard on the nerves, and this is not the right weather for me, so it isn't. That's why I have to move to the desert. I'm drinking watermelon juice. It tastes fantastic. Fantastic. Blended watermelon. Absolutely gourmet. You can also put a banana in it, into the blender. That would also be very creamy, and it doesn't have to be sweetened. Bananas and watermelons are naturally very, very high in natural whole sugar, and delicious and sweet. Really nice. So I'm sitting here. I actually have the heater on, believe it or not. And I have winter pants on and winter boots in the middle of summer. Oh man. But it's still nice. The sun is out, and I love looking into the trees. And it looks really nice. There are a couple of things I wanted to talk about. I got triggered yesterday by Paul really badly, and that happens once in a while. And it builds up, and then I feel so unbelievably frustrated that I have to go into my room and scream into my pillow. And that went on for like hours. But, whatever. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not gonna drug myself or anything. I let my emotions flow the way they flow, and if anger comes up, it comes up. I'm not gonna let it out on anyone. I should not even do an angry debate with anyone in that mental state. I shouldn't get mad at anyone or holler or anything. I should get up and go into my... That's very difficult to remember that when you are in that mental state, but you have to always remember, okay, you can't force anyone to do anything, that is even good for them. So you can't force anyone to understand something that you're saying. Nothing is done with force, okay? So what I have to do is I have to get up. If I get angry, I have to get up. I have to either go outside. I have to do Tonglen meditation like Thich Nhat Hanh did, or I have to go into my room and I have to scream into the pillow. And that's where I am at. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a yogi. I'm still going through very heavy emotions, and that's what I'm doing, and that's okay, and I'm not going to judge myself for it. I have heavy OCD. It's very difficult with my life, all of this is very difficult, many difficult things where I can't, if I have dirty hands, I can't touch my pants to pull my pants up or something like this, so if my pants are sliding, I need suspenders again. But, like OCD where I touch something and then I can't touch my face or my sweater or my pants. I have to go to the sink and I have to wash my hands first before I can straighten out my pants or whatever, or scratch a pimple. So all of this is avoidance, excessive hand washing, avoidance of particles. It's very difficult to live my life like this, but that's where I'm at. And earlier I was in the bathroom praying to the blue god in my artwork. And I kept saying over and over and over again, I don't want this mental illness anymore. I want to resolve the mental illness. I really want to resolve the mental illness. But I can't resolve this in an instance, or I would have already long time ago done that. I lived my whole life with this, and the reason why is because I have been heavily traumatized as a child. And this is some kind of this avoidance and the hand washing, excessive washing of stuff, laundry washing, extreme physical hygiene, which is good, of course, but when it takes on extreme forms where, I can't touch certain things, or I have to wash my hands over and over again, then it becomes something very neurotic, and that's not being mentally free. Okay, that's being a slave to one's own mental illness. Coping mechanisms, if you want to call that coping, those are not very good coping mechanisms, but they are used by the ego or by the mind, by the brain. I don't know which word fits. The mind is really the soul. So the soul isn't attached to those kind of things. If you come back in another body, you will be facing different problems or have different kind of coping mechanisms. So it's really the ego, and these are all attempts to just explain what kind of mechanisms are happening in a brain, So the kind of avoidance, the kind of reactive patterns and so on. We attribute those things to the ego, but what is the ego really? What does ego mean? Ego means the self. It comes from Latin or Greek, Old Latin or Greek, religious language, from ancient religious language. It's from thousands of years ago. That doesn't mean that they knew everything. No, they didn't. They didn't know very much at that time. Okay. So, but we still don't really understand what is that. What is this mechanism of self-protection? It's when it's neurotic, it's an overreaction to something that triggers the person, that can trigger a trauma. It's an overreactive self-protection mechanism. That can be all kinds of things. That can be an excessive angry reaction to something, or that can be where someone would go into the room and hide under the bed, or be scared, or be trying to cover up in blankets, or protect themselves, or avoid people. All kinds of different forms. Hand washing, this excessive washing, like trying to rid yourself of particles that your ego, that this overreaction mechanism, this self-defense, the mechanism that this tries to avoid all of these things, but it's irrationality, of course. So it's irrationality when it goes beyond cleanliness and hygiene and protection from germs. So I'm very well aware of that. But just because I'm aware doesn't mean I am suddenly able to just turn that off, that behavior, and live a completely normal life. Normal. Are humans normal? I think that's a very legitimate question to ask. Maybe not everyone has excessive hand washing, but there's a large number of people who do. Okay? There's a large number of people who have OCD and avoidance, and most of them would never talk about it, particularly not in public videos. And I don't blame them. I'm not judging them for that, because this is a very personal thing, and not everyone wants to declare their personal issues, of course. And then when personal issues, when that goes into the sexual realm, with sexuality and physical things, and shame and pride and sexual abuse, trauma, and those kind of things, that's when people particularly avoid talking to anyone about it. There are some people that don't even, like some teenage boys, if they feel like there's something wrong with their penis or with their sexuality, if their sexuality deviates slightly from the average person, or whatever is declared as average, they will not even talk to their mothers about it. So I've already seen documentary films on this. And I'm not judging them. It's just very tragic when people are locked in their own minds with their mental illness to the point where they can't even talk to anyone about this anymore. So, and it took me like an entire evolution to come to this point where I can make these completely free-flowing videos without any kind of script or editing. I think about what I want to talk about, sometimes for weeks. Think about something. I churn these subjects through my head day and night, literally. I wake up to go to the bathroom and I keep thinking about it again. About these things that I need to talk to someone about. And it's not easy to share all of these things in public videos, but I think it is so paramount important to share these particular things with the public, because the entire species, the entire human species, is not well. You can call some things normal, but be careful about that word normal, because what most people think is normal, the word normal for most people implies wellness, mental wellness. We see a lot of normation happening. That happens out of fear. People are flock animals, they're herd animals. They will adopt no matter what. Okay. They will even lie to themselves. They have done tests, it goes to that extreme, where they have done tests on people where the test person goes into a room and thinks the other people are test people too. But they're not. The other people they're the actors playing test people in order to test that one person. And the other ones decide that on something ridiculous, that this chair is taller than the other when they're not, when they're the same. Then the test person will first say, no, the one chair is taller, because she sees that, right? But then the other ones are unanimously declaring that, whatever, one chair is taller, or they're the same when they are not the same. And the test person will then adapt her belief to that of the majority of the group. Okay, so they tested people excessively on these kind of things, and they always had the same outcome. The majority of people that are being tested will adapt their beliefs against what they even see. So, and that can then go into denial. It can go all the way into anosognosia, which is a physical, biological denial state, where the person is actually really believes their own lies or their own stories, or the story that they have been told by other people, by this so-called unanimous decision of the group. That's how much influence a group has over an individual. That's very, very frightening. Okay, I see this with absolute dread in the world. Although I am, I'm not some kind of, I'm not a god seeing this from the sky perspective, but off and on I look at it from the sky perspective. I just look at it in contemplation. I look at myself. I look at my own issues. We have to do this. If we don't look at our own issues, we can't look at the whole from the sky perspective. Because if we look through the lens of our own neurosis, then we see the world in a totally distorted and discolored way. Distortion and discoloration lenses of neurosis. So, in order to clean the doors to perception, and that was not Jim Morrison who came up with this. He was only impressed with this. He read Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley talked about this. And I think Aldous Huxley was a contemporary with Jiddu Krishnamurti, and I believe that Aldous Huxley got this from Jiddu Krishnamurti. But I'm not exactly informed. I'm just guessing on this, because it was Jiddu Krishnamurti talking about this from day one. Okay, and this is also what Gautama Buddha talked about, and he is the reincarnation of Gautama Buddha. That is the infinite cosmos incarnated. Okay. So Aldous Huxley was a writer, but very much diving into the ancient philosophies and into perception and so on, dealing with these kind of things, which is good. If you clean those lenses, those sunglasses of perception, and the way you clean that is by taking these glasses off and looking at yourself in a mirror that is not distorted. And that's a metaphor. Looking into yourself means I sit there in contemplation and I say, so what's happening here? Right now I'm kind of confused and clueless. It's okay. I don't have to force myself not to be clueless. I am what I am in that moment. I sit there in contemplation about this. And I allow myself to be in the mental state that I'm in, okay, without kidding myself, without trying to please anyone. I'm in that mental state that I'm in, whatever it is. And then gradually, as I allow myself and breathe with it and relax with it, then I can love myself for who I am and for whatever I feel in that moment. And I can accept that I feel this or that in that moment. I don't have to run away from it. I can accept this is how I feel. Let's take Nat Hansa, breathe in, hold your breath. Gradually breathe out and love yourself for who you are and what you feel. Whatever the situation is, it is what it is. It's okay. There's a group of people that are practicing this meditation. It's a group of people, some kind of therapy program. They have a ranch in South Africa, and they are practicing this particular meditation. I was very impressed when I came across this group on on YouTube. And I was very happy to see that there are some people who understand this, who really bottom up understand this process. I'm coming from primal therapy, where we allow that what we feel, and it's okay, and we feel it. So then I also discovered Thich Nhat Hanh and Jiddu Krishnamurti and Pema Chodron and the different forms of meditation, Metta Bhavana, the Tonglen. I wish that what I need, what I want for myself, I wish that for everyone else as well. I wish for love for myself. I wish for the same love for others. This is one unit. It's oneness. Separation is an illusion. The ego separates. The ego fragments us into shattered pieces. David Bohm said that the whole world is shattered into pieces. He understood that very well in these discussions with Jiddu Krishnamurti. I make something into me versus you, my nation versus your nation, my army front versus your army front, and with that we shatter each other into more and more and more fragments of mind. These are desperate ego coping mechanisms that don't cope very well. It's neurosis. And when we sit with the way we feel in meditation, we can just accept, this is how I feel in this very moment, whatever it is, whatever comes up. Then I can love myself for whatever I feel right now in this moment. This is what I feel. Okay. I don't judge myself. I don't shame myself. I don't use someone else's inner type of adopted voice, whatever, from my mother's mocking, or the hater mocking voice, or the hater's thoughts on me. No, I let them go. These external souls and ego energies and voices and gnomes and trolls that want to come in and tell me something negative, okay? Because that's their problem, really. It's not my problem. They want to make it my problem. My mother wants to make her problem with my appearance my problem. It's still not, in actuality, not my problem. It's her problem. If she wants me to dress and behave in a specific way that will please her ego, and I don't do that, that's not my problem. It's good for me that I give into that. Okay. That's very strong for me to not give in to this. But then I will go into an opposition. I'll go into a rebellion. That's neurosis again as well. But this is where I'm at. I mean, it's better to be in rebellion than to adapt and enslave yourself to what other people want you to be, or how they want you to dress or have your hair. That's their problem, you know. Don't judge them, let them go. Sorry, it's your problem. You know. So I go my way, you go your way with your problem that you have with my appearance. So, and I sit with it here for myself, not for anyone else. And I breathe with it. I let the troll voice go. Bye, take care, deal with your own issues, go into your own mind. If they don't do it, it's still not my problem. Okay? That's their problem. I can only give advice, you know, wholesome advice, compassionate advice, healing advice. If they don't take my advice, I have to let them go. I go in a different direction. I sit in meditation. It's sometimes hard, like I said in my other video. It's sometimes hard to do when it's your immediate family member, you know, when it's your mother or your daughter or a brother or whoever that is. You know. It's very difficult. That brings up so much pain in all of this. But we have to sit with it. We have to sit with it in meditation, not involve the other person into it. I sit with this here on my own, whatever it is, whatever my grandfather coming into my head, or my dad, or my brother, or my mother. I sit with it. I say to them in my mind, those are your problems. I feel sorry for you. I am not your servant. I cannot please your ego. I cannot be that what you want me to be. I am that what I am. Okay. And I go my own way, you go your own way. I let you go in peace. Okay. And I wish you well. And happiness and all of that. But right now I'm dealing with my own mental issues that are coming up. Whatever it is, okay? Whatever comes up, it's okay. It can be severe anger and irritation. The best thing is to sit with it in meditation, to sit through this. Let it churn through the brain, right? And not act it out. That's the key here. And if you have to, if you can't stand it at all, you're too much in a rage, you go into your room, you close the door and the window, and you scream into your pillow. I also punched my pillow yesterday. It's not okay for me to get mad at Paul. Not at all. He opened my door, I pushed the door closed again. That was not okay. And then he said, "You almost hit my hand." And that made me even more angry in that moment, right? But the next day I wake up, I feel terribly sorry. I feel so sorry. I feel like, man, that's awful the way I behaved. That's horrible. And then some people, like my mother, for example, some people will use a terminology like, what went in me that I acted like? What went in her, right? Like, the boogeyman went into you, or the demon, or some external entity went into you and possessed you to do something. In the English language too, they use this. What possesses someone to, what, So no, it's not possess. That's the ego trying to rid itself of any responsibility to say something like this. Even to use habituated terminology that we learn throughout our lives. We have to question those kind of things. We have to question phrases and proverbs and metaphors and this kind of terminology that we grow up with. I know it's very difficult to. We're so immersed in that type of language that we don't even know where to start questioning. We think that everything that we learned that's kind of like written in concrete, or that's normal, or that's the way it is, and it's not at all. Our languages, German, English, all languages, they are infused with what Tony Robbins calls impotent beliefs and negativities and untruths. Okay, all of these kind of things, these are untruths. Those kind of habituated terminology statements or metaphors are loaded with untruth. And we need to question all of this, and we need to examine all of those things. We need to pluck it apart, analyze it. Where does it come from? Why would someone use the word possess, right? Or my mother said, what went into me that I acted like this? No, nothing went into her. Nothing possessed her. That's her ego. Okay, the ego trying to protect the inner child from hurt, but the ego doesn't understand it. The ego is very stupid. The ego is not informed. The ego is very habituated. The ego only thinks in terms of, let me protect this person here from further humiliation or shame or hurt or abuse or whatever. So, and the different egos of different people, according to their DNA and brain anatomy and biology, of course, every biology creates a different form of ego, a different form of defense mechanism. One ego is violent, another person's ego will go into self-harming, another person's ego will go into hiding, another person's ego will go into reclusion somewhere in the mountains. Okay. So all of these are not coping very well. These are coping mechanisms that don't cope very well. But they're still attempts of coping. Self-defense mechanism. Neurotic overreactions. I wouldn't really say overreactions, because they still react to the childhood trauma, and that was severe. Okay, so let's not judge it. They come from something. Okay, but then later on, nobody is abusing that person anymore, but the person will be constantly on guard and looking. Is someone gonna be abusing me? So, and that's an overreaction then to specific triggers in their environment. but it comes from actual trauma originally, you know. So, but that's the neurosis. That's what neurosis is. My ego dictates to me how to live my life, and that means I'm a prisoner of my own pain. I'm a prisoner of my own neurosis, of my own coping mechanisms. Okay. If I can do what Jiddu Krishnamurti says to do, and that's very difficult, I guess, for most of us, you know, myself included. If I can sit with this in meditation, and I every day, and not in any way do any of these coping mechanisms, different forms of coping mechanisms, they all go under the category act outs. But what I really understand under act out is a coping mechanism that lets it out on other people or uses other people to bind them into their dollhouse of make-believe, you know. Use someone else as a snapshot to do their own narcissistic repair or something. Sam Vaknin talks about this a lot. Okay. This is the cluster B mechanism. But an act out, in a broad sense, will also be hand washing. But I won't call it act out. I will call it coping mechanism or neurotic coping mechanism attempt, because not really coping. It doesn't cope very well, but it thinks it copes. It thinks that this defense mechanism in us thinks this is what I have to do in order to feel better or feel balanced. To clean myself from the particles of sexual abuse and so on. There was a woman in the OCD project, straight woman, real pretty girl, beautiful, beautiful, intelligent, kind woman in that OCD project. She could not touch anyone, she couldn't shake anyone's hand. She could not invite a man to her apartment, although she wanted a boyfriend. That's why she went to that therapy process. They didn't do a very good job there. Sorry to say it. They did. They didn't only do a bad job. They were counterproductive. This physician, psychiatrist that was there, that was running this OCD project, I think he was more interested in scandal and show popularity than anything, than any person's well-being. He went so far that he forced, again, for never use force on anyone. He forced a psychotic man into doing something that put the psychotic man into full-flooded psychosis, and then he had to take this man out of that group and had to actually hospitalize that guy. You know, that guy, he should take a lawyer and sue the shit out of that psychiatrist. That psychiatrist should lose his license for that, and he is not qualified to be in any way a therapist for anyone. Okay, that's what I have to say to this. And also the way he treated that girl was that severe avoidance. He went to her apartment. He had a glass vial with some particles of male urine in it, or maybe some sperm, and then he would sprinkle some of that on her on her closet, on her on her clothes, and on her bed. And he made one of these guys, big fat guy that was in that OCD, he brought him along because he thought that now that's like the epitome of what she has OCD with, also scared of a big fat guy and all of that. And he made him sit on her bed. And she was standing there with a horrified look on her face. And she was watching the psychiatrist sprinkle the stuff on her clothes. And this is some ridiculous idea that if you do, they call it flooding, if you do this like overexposure with people, that kind of balances out their system and they'll get used to it, and then the other things aren't so bad anymore. These kind of things, this is all force. It's like rape. This is forcing someone. When someone is physically ill, they broke their leg, you're not gonna make them do gymnastics. Okay, the leg has to heal first. The same with the brain. If someone is severely traumatized by clowns, for example, you're not bringing this person to a circus where there's a clown acrobat dancing in front of them, right? Or whatever that is. If a girl has been molested as a child by men and later on has these avoidance coping mechanisms that don't cope very well because her body needs a boyfriend, but she can't allow. I can relate so well to this, so well. I don't have it to that extreme, but I have it pretty extreme. And it doesn't get better also in time. It seems to get more and more intense, particularly if we give into this, this avoidance. Then one thing leads up to the next, and then before I know it, I have become a recluse and I live a very lonely life, so. And she wanted to heal that. That's why she participated in that. But this guy, he was going about that with so much force and brutality. I could tell he wanted to rape her also. I could see it in his face. I'm not making this up. I could actually see it. She was also a little bit attracted to him in some kind of, all of it. This is a bit sadomaso. It goes a little bit in that direction. So, the mean psychiatrist, he's in charge of her. And then she kind of falls into this all act out from childhood and becomes sexualized. Then that's when it becomes so difficult to see through this, Then it becomes a sexual idea and a sexual lust and fantasy, and then the person thinks, oh, well, that's what my fantasy is. I like mean psychiatrists. So no, it's not. No, stop right there. That is not what your body wants. This is so difficult to see through this, because when the sexuality attaches itself onto victimhood or perpetrator behavior and so on, and not only that, then the entire society reinforces this also, snowballs it. And then how can we see through this? Yeah. Do I have to talk about Philip Jones again? I guess I have. I was almost gonna say sorry, but I'm not sorry, okay? Philip Jones is my prototypical, this is how you do not do it. Okay, now, let's take Philip Jones as the prototypical example here for the unempowered male of today's society. He has been told, first of all, he has been shamed as a little child, which is extremely sad and tragic. Okay. So, and I feel for you 100%. Then comes society, then comes your Catholicism, then the Latino community, all of these things are going against you. All of these things, all of this neurotic shit from other people, and everyone is in their own neurotic shit just like you. And then because of that, they reinforce your trauma, and they kind of make you think this is how men behave. They're mean to women. They enslave women. Woman is in the kitchen. She has nothing to say. The man watches soccer or football games, and the woman's in the kitchen baking your enchiladas and stuff like this. Yes, he knows a little bit about that society. Yes, I have seen these people. I've seen them. Yes, I've seen them. I've seen them be mean to their women. I didn't like it at all. Yes. So they brought him to the animal shelter because he didn't want to be mean to other dogs. And they probably fed live cats to him, so that's why he was all scratched up, with laser sharp incisions. That usually happens from cat claws. He had that all over his body. So, and he has one larger scar on his elbow, and I think they probably tried to make him fight with other dogs, but he didn't want to. And because he didn't want to, then the other dog wouldn't want either. Because, it takes one person to make peace, and then the other one will eventually also make peace and see, okay, I get your point, So if there's a fight club and one refuses to fight, then the other one is most likely at some point going to say, no, I'm not going to hurt him any further. He's not even defending himself. If there's war and nobody shows up, what's happening then? Then we don't have war. Okay. And that's how it works. But I mean, it's not just the Latino community, of course. I only happen to single out Philip in order to, or whatever his name is, Jimmy, Jimmy Rodriguez, whatever. And that's probably also not his name. I don't know, but the other guys from Corpus Christi called him Jimmy, so maybe that's Philip Jones Jimmy. So you know who you are. But, I mean, I'm just picking one person because he's kind of like asked for it, by the way he treated me. So because of the way he has treated me, he doesn't get any kind of anonymity or confidentiality in this case, because he has basically has sabotaged his own anonymity with the way he treated me. And that's why I use him as an example, as a prototypical example for the average male in the United States. But, not just the Latino, I mean, all kinds of communities, black communities. This happens also in Asian communities, this happens in white communities as well. So I'm just using him now, but he thinks he has to be mean to women, and because that's what he's been told his entire life, and that's how they snowball and escalate each other further and further into these kind of act outs that are not based on truth. Okay. And through this giving into this, never questioning any of this, it just escalates and it becomes worse. And then they think this is normal, or this is how it's being done. This is how a good Catholic treats his wife, Like, I kick your ass into the kitchen. You make me an enchilada or tamale. No, it doesn't work that way. You make your own enchilada. The entire enchilada, you make yourself. And your own entire tamale and burrito and so on. I'm not going to say what I was just thinking. I better not. You play with your own burritos in the kitchen. But that's enough. I'm not gonna say anymore. Leave that woman alone. Okay. Let her do whatever she wants to do, and if she wants to flirt with a man on the internet, that's her right to do. You don't have the right to interfere with her life. We have to give each other space. Okay, we have to give each other beingness and allow each other to exist and do what we want to do, and follow our thoughts and dreams and be friends with whoever we want to be friends with. That could be a man, right? Okay, it's okay. The human is not a monogamous animal. It just isn't. Okay. So accept it. But in order to deepen a friendship, to make the bond and not the bondage, the bond, the bonding of love, the love unit, more cohesive and stronger and more reliable, and with real love, real friendship. That means I give you space. That means you give me space. We don't possess each other. Okay. We can live with each other. We can help each other. We can grow together. Okay. And if we are a romantic love unit, then you can do whatever you want to do outside of our house. But sometimes you don't even need to go. I don't need to. If I'm really in love with someone, I don't need to flirt with someone else. I don't need to tease someone else. I just want to be with the man I love. I just want to. I haven't experienced this ever. This is so sad. I have never experienced a real love unit, a romantic relationship love unit. Never experienced this. Out of my own neurosis, so I've always been whoring around. I've broken many hearts. My heart was broken many times as well. And all of this out of childhood trauma and neurosis. And it's so infinitely sad. And it shouldn't be that way. Okay. But in order to have this romantic love unit, the real love unit, I guess it happens, but it's very, very rare when you hear about this. Most people's relationships, they don't hold up for very long before they start to look at others and flirt with others and date others and so on, or before they don't even spend time together anymore. And in order to heal this, we can't just heal it by saying, I'm making this decision now. No, I'm not. No, that doesn't work that way. Before we can heal this, we have to work on ourselves. We have to heal our own trauma and mental illness. And the more we heal our trauma and mental illness, the more we can be there for someone else and care about someone else. Okay? You guys take care. Bye-bye.